Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Hello and welcome everyone. Today we're talking about my Volt build. And this is basically the deal. Let's just keep it nice and simple. This is a level 100 Corrupted Heavy Gunner, and it's just nothing. Just absolutely nothing. I could do that all day. So you know what? Let's do that. Let's do that all day. Let's fight a squad of Corrupted Heavy Gunners. We're going to fight 20 level 100 Corrupted Heavy Gunners. And I'm going to use that as a way to explain how this build works, how you fight with this build, and then I'll show you all the actual builds at the end. So, first thing we need to do is talk about what Volt is actually good at. And what Volt's good at is having these shields. These shields are amazing. These shields block infinite damage from the front, and when you shoot from them, you get extra critical damage and electricity damage. Additionally, when you ram enemies with them, they get hit. These shields also last a long time. Lastly, if all of that wasn't good enough, you can pick them up and make 4 of them. So you can pick them up and move around with them. And the way this build is set up, again, we'll talk about builds at the end, you can pick them up and run around with them for very little energy. My energy is not decreasing all that fast, and yet, supposedly, this costs energy depending on how far you travel. So, I'm going to pick all this stuff up and then spawn these enemies, and we're going to jump in. So our very first goal is to not get cornered. And we can kill those enemies, but we want to make sure we don't get cornered. We're leaving our back open there. We're going to get cornered, we'll run by those. We can just charge right through them. Here, we will not get cornered, so we'll put down some shields, drop a couple of shields for safety, and then we can just start shooting dudes and doing crazy damage, absolutely crazy damage. And we want to make sure we keep our speed active because it keeps our reload speed low. Twin Gurkatas, of course, have very, very high reload speed, so we want to keep that nice and low by keeping speed active. You can cast that while you're performing other actions, so that's no big deal. If enemies get too close or are flanking us, we can use our shock while we are shooting. So we can move forward with our shield, fire a shock while we're firing to make sure all those enemies stay still. If you want to guarantee headshots or just prevent dudes from flanking you, you can do that. And we can sort of just piddle at enemies like this. We have to make sure our shields don't go down or we're going to die very quickly. But as long as we don't do that, as long as we don't forget to refresh that, we can piddle them down. And just stand here all day, right? And in the event that there's a big crowd of them like this, we can make a shield, take out our Amprex, and fire at the group. And as you see, it chains to the nearby enemies, doing absolutely crazy damage to the group of them. And in this way, you can clear a large group without having to shoot each enemy individually with your Twin Gurkatas. That would be ridiculous, of course. So, you can just fry through them, take care of them real nice, as you see. And of course you can keep them CC'd if they're crawling around too much or whatever. Keep them stacked by zapping them with your shock. And again, you can do all of that while you are shooting. So as you can see, we've cleared out most of the enemies, nice and neat, right? And then with the remainder, you can pick up, let's make a new shield, pick up a new shield, and you can just run around and charge into them with your Oma. You'll be able to make incredibly short work of them. And that's all she wrote. Oh, great. So that wasn't so bad, right? Let's talk about how all of that actually works. So, as you can see, for our 3 weapons, we have the Amprex, Twin Gurkatas, and the Oma. And the Twin Gurkatas are really particular, and the Amprex is a good fit, but the Oma can kind of be anything. They don't really have any special synergy with this build. It just fits the theme. So, let's talk about the Volt Prime build first, to show how you achieve all of this. The most important thing is the combination of efficiency mods. So, Electric Shield is a weird ability in that it has a cost to cast and a cost per second while you're holding it, and it has a cost for every unit of distance that you travel while you are holding it. So it costs the most energy while you are running fast while holding it. Max power efficiency, that's of course all as low as possible, but power duration only lowers that per second cost, so it's not quite as important as that running cost, right? Because when we're as fast as we are, when we can run around this quickly, obviously the biggest expenditure is going to be holding it while moving, right? Traveling over distance while moving. So that's the most important thing. The efficiency is more important than the duration. So let me just show you the Volt Prime build, although I'm sure you have an idea what it is by now. So we got max efficiency, of course, went in for a little bit of duration, good amount of duration, so that we offset the efficiency mod, of course, but also because it does cost energy per second. The way we're going to survive with this build is Prime Flow and Quick Thinking. Volt Prime has the highest energy pool, the highest power pool of all Warframes, tied with Saren Prime. As you can see, I do not even have a maxed out primed flow, and my energy is 750, which is crazy. That is the crux of this build. That's basically what this build does. And then the sort of sideshow, but it's important, is these 3 mods right here. So as you can see, we've got Rush, and then 2 power strength mods that give us 180 power strength. So these mods are to increase your running speed, to give you that insane speed we had before. The reason it's this combination of mods, the reason we're not cracking for Blind Rage or whatever, besides the fact that it would mess up that efficiency part of the build, is because combining sprint speed and a moderate amount of power strength gives you roughly the same result as getting like a ton of power strength or whatever, because speed multiplies your sprint speed. So as you can see here, you get a speed multiplier. So whatever your sprint speed is, that's getting multiplied by 1.9. You know, it's exactly the same as when you build a weapon. You want a mix of multi-shot, well, multi-shot's obviously crazy, but like, and base damage. Because the more base damage you have, the more multi-shot is good. And the more multi-shot you have, the better base damage is. Much the same here. And by combining that meager set of mods, we get a speed volt-like speed. You know, this is slower, but it's still very fast. Like, about the speed that you can actually control yourself at, right? Very adequate speed without warping the entire build. The build is not just speed, we're still very survivable, we still have long duration, but we're still also rather fast. So that is why the build is set up like that, and it's very important. The second most important thing is the Gorakatas, these glorious weapons that fit the build so well. So this is basically just a normal Twin Gorakatas build. That's what you're going to notice, right? That's because Twin Gorakatas was chosen specifically because it is a good fit for Volt's powers. It has a long reload speed, which is decreased by Volt's speed. It's got very consistent crits with Prime Pistol Gambit, mine's not even fully ranked up, and Hydraulic Crosshairs. You crit basically 100% of the time when Hydraulic Crosshairs is procced, which it will be because this weapon is amazing accuracy, and you can always take time to aim since you're safe behind your electric shields. And besides that, we just got a bunch of damage. And we've chosen corrosive damage because this weapon has phenomenal status chance considering its fire rate. 32 bullets per second with 25% status chance is a whole lot of corrosive procs. So that's very good. That's why we've ignored Prime T to charge. Very strong weapon, especially when fired through our electric shields. I mean, again, as I showed you before, this is absolutely just trivial. So besides that, which is basically the core of the build, we have the Amprex, which is clearing out such a lovely amount of enemies for us. Now, this is also a very normal Amprex build, but the key here is for your weapon that's going to clear a big group, you want something with crazy crit chance and crit multiplier so that you can take advantage of that electric shield damage, because you're going to be getting big electric shield damage. But I've chosen the Amprex. I've chosen the Amprex because the Amprex performs additional chaining to nearby targets if it punches through a target. Each additional target it punches through will create more chaining and multiply the outgoing damage like crazy. So when enemies are in a big cluster like that, put down an electrical shield, fire off the Amprex, big chain reaction, everything dies. Awesome. And then we come to the Oma. So this weapon is more like if you do not want to shoot your like world-destroying railguns like these, if you just need to like tap something or whatever, the Oma is a much more no-nonsense way to do it. I'd recommend that you use your melee weapon for this. So the Oma does have a good spin attack, but I haven't actually built it for that. It is nice, I do use it because if you're running by an enemy at high speed, you can just hit your spin attack, knock it off super quick, which is great. But I've used this weapon as a normal melee weapon, so we're going to fight some enemies with it, and I'm going to show you how effective it can be, because it's hard to see when you're not just like deliberately going for it. So we're just going to spawn some butchers. Let's get like 20 butchers. And just go for it. So again, you got your shield, electrify it, bam. So now this shield is not exactly to prevent you from damage as much as to be used as a battering ram. So as you can see, you can just hit all these enemies, get them on the ground, and then use that initial time that you have over them to start battering them. Have your berserker speed up, and then just go totally nuts and shred through them like you do. Now you need to make sure that you maintain your speed, and that's actually a little bit harder with this weapon because there are some animations that will prevent you from activating speed. So you want to make sure that your speed doesn't go down, you want to make sure you're clicking it a lot to make sure it actually does reactivate. There are some animations, again, that will lock you out of casting speed even though you should be able to do it while doing other stuff, which is very important. You gotta make sure you don't lose that. And as long as you have that speed, as you see, these weapons make very, very short work of large numbers of enemies with their glorious attacks. Spinning through them, doing crazy status chants, crazy crits, phenomenal weapons. So, once again, a weapon that does pure corrosive damage and also has really good crits. And that doesn't, of course, get affected by electrical shield, but it's still, yeah, I mean, it's a body count and blood rush weapon. What do you want from me? So, this weapon has great status chance, great crits, not super difficult to make the build. You don't need Sovereign Outcast, it's just really fun. Gemini Cross is fine. I'll show you Carrier Prime really quick. So, the importance of Carrier Prime is to keep your Twin Gurkatas, and to some degree your Amprex, that's not the most ammo efficient weapon, full of ammo. So it's here for ammo case, that's why we have Carrier Prime. So that's somewhat important. Rest of the mods, Carrier Prime is just a rock, so just get your survivability, get your, you know, basic, your vacuum, your guardian, your regen, your primed assault, your animal instinct. I like Mediray. I think this is a pretty good mod, especially like it takes a while to perform, but your carrier is literally just going to be sitting around, so why not? And then self-destruct. This Sentinel comes with an innate V polarity, and I didn't know what to do with it, so self-destruct. If I was willing to put the time in to put a Forma, like 2 more Forma on this Sentinel, I would put Sanctuary on, probably. It'd just be nice to have, but not a big deal. So that's how I recommend you build carrier. I was not even using Xeneric Energy Overflow. And that's actually very important to this build because it allows you to do an incredibly overpowered thing. That looks like this, by the way. So you've just 1 rank in Void Pulse, just the minimum, full 4 ranks in Void Pulse Mastery, and then full 4 ranks in Energy Overflow, and nothing else. Remember, additional things will just be a waste in the case of Void Pulse ranks because it doesn't matter, or will just increase the cooldown for no reason. Drop a new shield. We'll electrify it for the sake of consistency. Now I'm going to activate Xeneric Energy Overflow. So that's active, and as you can see I'm regenerating energy pretty quick, right? So I'm going to pick up the shield, activate speed, and I'm going to start running. Now as you can see, I am barely spending energy. I lose 1 energy roughly every 2 seconds, even a little bit less than that. How can this be? Surely Xeneric Energy Overflow is deactivated for abilities that cost energy per second, right? That's how all abilities like that work. That's how Exalted Weapons work. That's how all other abilities with duration activations like that work, right? Well, for whatever reason, that's not how it works with Electric Shield, and that's super broken because that means you can be holding it, and literally gain energy. Like, look at my energy. Supposedly this costs energy per second, but I'm still gaining energy. I'm now moving, and I'm still gaining energy. It's not until I start running that I'm even losing energy at all, and even then I'm only losing like 1 every 2 seconds, and all I have to do is stop and I start gaining it again rather quickly. So super overpowered, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.